Oh, yes, yes, yes.
We're just going to sing two more songs for you guys. The last song, feel free to sing along. I'm sure a lot of you will know it. And I also just want to say that we have a concert this Saturday in Angel Hall Odd A. So you guys should all come out and see us. We would really love to have you there. At 7:30.
Is this on? Yes? No? Perfect. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kyle Reebok, and on behalf of the 2019 Golden Apple Committee, thank you all for being here to recognize Mark Conger of the Comprehensive Studies Program as the 29th winner of the Golden Apple Award. For those of you that may not know, the Golden Apple Award is the only campus-wide award for faculty members that is exclusively handled by students. For 29 years, it has signified the enormous impact that truly exceptional professors make on the lives of their students every day. And I am very honored to be presenting such award again tonight. The award itself has an interesting backstory. It was inspired by the teachings of a rabbi who 1900 years ago preached to, quote, "Get your life in order one day before you die." As teachers, walking into a classroom or a lecture hall every day as if it were your last and giving it all that you have to your students is a level of dedication that should not go unnoticed. And in this way, the Golden Apple Award recognizes teachers that feel this unwavering commitment to the craft by giving them the space to deliver what they would envision to be their, quote, last lecture. But hopefully, Mr. Conger, this lecture is not your last, and we hope that your incredible contributions to the university and your students will continue for years to come. Now, before I invite Mr. Conger on stage, I would like to take a minute to thank some people that helped make this event and the Golden Apple Award possible. I would like to thank the support extended to us by Hillel, especially our advisor, Rabbi Lisa Stella, and our graphic designer, Michael Oatman, who made our awesome poster and programs. This year, I am also thrilled to say that we had a record-breaking 41 academic units, offices, and departments sponsor this event and circulate our materials. You can find the names of those offices in your program. I would also like to thank the nearly 1,000 students that took the time to nominate their favorite professors this year, as well as all of those professors that received nominations. Thank you very much to the sopranos who delivered a spectacular pre-show performance. As well as the behind-the-scenes staff at Rackham here that are making everything run so seamlessly. Thank you very much to the CSP department and their students in helping us surprise Mr. Conger in such a memorable way. Hearing some of the heartfelt messages, as well as the energy and applause in Mr. Conger's classroom, truly made me understand how deserving he is of this award. This being the third year that I have been involved in the committee, witnessing that surprise is always one of my favorite moments, and I cannot forget to thank the incredible Golden Apple Committee who put in countless hours of fundraising and tabling and event planning to make this event such a success. Our committee also has the pleasure of providing the award recipient with the means to donate to a charity of their choice, and Mr. Conger instead chose 3. Earth Justice, the Byrd Center of Washtenaw County, and the LS&A Emergency Scholarship Fund, which helps support students in times of need. Tonight, we have the pleasure of hearing Mr. Conger's ideal last lecture entitled The Local, the Global, and the Nature of Infinity. And so without further ado, please give me a hand in welcoming to the stage the winner of the 2019 Golden Apple Award, Professor Mark Conger.
Sorry, forgot. That won't work. How about that? Does that work? Okay. All right. Pass the first test. All right. I can't see you guys very well because the lights are in my eyes. I don't know if that's the way it's going to be, but this is terrifying. So, I'm supposed to give, I don't even usually lecture at all, and my job is to say everything that needs to be said before I die. It's a little intimidating. I guess I better start by thanking people. So, First, we should thank the Golden Apple Committee and all the people who nominated me. I really appreciate it. I have not got to read the nominations yet. I hope that I'll get to read them someday. But I have read some in the past, and they're really touching. So I know also that a thing like this doesn't actually happen spontaneously, even if it seems like it. It happens because somebody organizes. And I was not aware of the organization while it was happening, but since then, various people have outed the organizers. And so I'd like to invite them up to the stage to say thanks. So Haley Atkins and Dustin Stavinsky and Lynn Lee and Janera Martinez, could you guys come up here for a minute? And this thing here. I have some stuff for you guys. All right. So I have some stuff for you guys. So I know I'm bragging when I say this, but I want you to know that this award is really hard to win. There are many extraordinary. The reason I know that is because 2 years ago, Janera collected 32 nominations and bound them and gave them to me in a beautiful book that I carry with me all the time. And that was not enough. So I know that it takes a great deal to make this happen. And because there are so many extraordinary teachers here at Michigan, that's the bottom line. So I want you to know that besides being a great honor for me, it's a tremendous accomplishment for these four and for everybody else who nominated. So please give them a hand. So. He needs to eat more vegetables. All right, thank you guys. One more. I want to say one shout out to Lauren Smith. Lauren has graduated and has a real job in Pepsi, so she can't be here. But I think her mom might be here. Is Linda here? I don't know if Linda. Linda, there you are. These are for Lauren. Alex, could you take those back there? Thank you. To Linda. Linda, would you wave? All right. All right. All right. So, I teach this thing called the Douglas Houghton Scholars Program. You may have heard of it, or not. It is for freshmen who are taking calculus, and what we do in DHSP is we do hard calculus problems in groups at the board. And on a good day, we see something really beautiful or something really practical. When I'm not in class, I sit here. A second. See if this works. There we go. I sit here at this table. Gretchen's here. That's Gretchen there. That's Gretchen. And Marissa's here too. Gretchen and Marissa are both here. So I sit at that table, and people come and sit around, and mostly I just leave them alone. But if they're struggling, then I do problems with them. And that's basically what I do for the other 40 hours of the week when I'm not in class. All right, DHSP was created by Bob Meganson when he was in the Ellison A. Dean's office, and it's now part of the Comprehensive Studies program. And CSP, if you don't know, is entirely populated by people who care a great deal to help other students, to help students graduate from the University of Michigan and do well and thrive and succeed. Succeed, that's the right word, succeed. And so I want to shout out to just a couple people. First of all, Meg Newton, who was the former director of CSP, who took me in when I needed a home, and Harold Waters, who still hasn't asked me to quit hogging that table and give somebody else a chance, so I really appreciate that. A short and incomplete list of other people who have helped me get here are Karen Ray, Jason Hold, Sonny Fawcett, Divakar Viswanath, Stephen Devakar, all the math coordinators, Gavin LaRose, Susan and Keith Perot, Paula Hathaway, all the Noonan advisors, the CSP advisors, the honors advisors, and all my teaching partners and assistants. And most of all, I want to thank my mom and Carol Moore, who gets me through every day. So thank you all very much. Maybe everybody would give them a hand. Besides DHSP, I taught 3 times in the Summer Bridge Scholars Program and 17 summers in the Michigan Math and Science Scholars Program for high school students. I think that's all you need to know about me. So let's do some math. So if this is my last lecture, I'm going to tell the best math story I know. It's a story I learned from Jason Hold, and it's one that many of you have heard before. So I content myself with the notion that a good story is worth hearing more than once if it's told well, and we'll see how well we tell it. So all I ask from those folks who've heard it before is give other people a chance to answer, to think about it before you give them the answer. You know who you are. And try to remember how much fun it was to hear it for the first time. That's it. All right, you ready? All right. I want to talk about infinity. So what is infinity? Well, when you ask this question, you get various answers, like a really long time, or a really far away, or an unreachable thing, or something that's just really too hard. It's just infinitely hard. And they all have in common that it's sort of a boundary. It's sort of something you can't get to. But otherwise, it seems like a pretty difficult concept. So maybe we should start with an easier question, like what is 2? So my friend Steve was a graduate student with me. That's Steve right there, and Steve went to join the Peace Corps after 2 years of graduate school, and he went to a meeting of other Peace Corps volunteers from Michigan who had just come back. By the way, if you've never heard the story of how the Peace Corps got founded, I have never been so proud to be associated with the University of Michigan as when I understood that story, because the Peace Corps would not exist as it is now except for Michigan students who made it happen, who demanded that it happen. So Steve went to this meeting, and he met this guy who had just come back, and Steve said, "Well, I'm going to go teach math in Nepal. That's what I'm going to do." And the guy said, "Ooh, that would have been really hard where I was, because the people I was with didn't have a word for 2. They had a word for 1 and a few and many, and that was it. That was all their numbers." And I was always skeptical of this story. I thought maybe they just told that to the American. They're like, "Oh no," they just didn't want to do any math. They're like, "Oh no, we don't do that." But then I read an article, it was a couple years ago, about a tribe in the Amazon, and yeah, that's the deal. They don't have any numbers. And some psychologists went down there and devised some tests that didn't involve language to test whether this was true or not, and they concluded, yep, they really don't have any numbers. Furthermore, they don't want any numbers. You try to teach them to them, and they're like, "No, sorry, that's not our thing." And they get cheated in business dealings a lot as a result. So my point is that 2 is not a concept you were born knowing. It's a concept you learned. And so how can we define it? How can we define what 2 is? Well, here's a suggestion how you might define what 2 is. So I have these grapefruits, and I'm going to say that a set has size 2 if it can be put in 1-to-1 correspondence with these grapefruits. So for instance, my hands, I can associate one hand with this one, and one hand with this one, and then I've used up all the hands and I've used up all the grapefruits, and so I conclude that they have the same number of hands as grapefruits. Those 2 sets are the same size, right? And then so I don't mean any 2 grapefruits, I mean these 2 grapefruits right here. Any set is size 2 if it can be associated with those grapefruits, right? Okay, there you go. How could you define 3? Some bananas, right? And so, right? So you need a canonical set, and then if you can put something in one-to-one correspondence, like the Powerpuff Girls, in a correspondence with that, then you would say that that set has size 3. So, okay, all right, and you can go from there and define arithmetic and so forth. So, all right, so that's going to be our tool. We're going to say 2 things have the same size if they're in one-to-one correspondence. So, all right, you guys know what's coming next. So, I want you to imagine an infinite hotel. So, all right. An infinite hotel has an infinite number of rooms, and the rooms are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, etc. And right now, it's all full. So there's a person in every room. Does that bother anybody? Usually it bothers somebody. If it bothers you, well, sorry. Just deal with it. There's a person in every room. And right now, so the rooms and the people are in one-to-one correspondence, right? So there's the same set of, there's the same number of, the 2 sets have the same size. And so the red numbers are the people, and the black numbers are the hotel rooms. And you're the manager, and one new person shows up. And the question is, can you get them into the hotel? So somebody who hasn't heard this before, do you have an idea? If you do, shout it out or raise your hand or something. It's hard to see. Anybody? Anybody? How about you guys? What do you think? Doesn't have to be a good idea, just shout it out. What was that? Okay, that's a good idea. Right. Usually I get build more rooms, and I'm like, no, you can't build more rooms. Put them in room infinity. There's no room infinity. But that's an excellent idea. Why don't we shift everybody over one room? So tell the person in room 1 to go to room 2, and the person in room 2 to go to room 3, and so forth. And then that frees up room number 1, and so the new person can go into room 1. So the question to ask is, did everybody get a room? And did any 2 people get the same room? And if the answers are yes and no, then this is a one-to-one correspondence. So we added one person, and yet the people are still in one-to-one correspondence with the rooms. So you might say it like this: infinity plus 1 equals infinity. I'm going to put question marks after all these equations because they're all a little dubious, right? Because, obviously that equation doesn't make any sense for a real number. So, but all right. All right, what if 100 people show up? What can you do? What was that? You've heard it before. Yes, so Jack's right. So have everybody shift down 100 rows, right? 100 rooms. That frees up the first 100 rooms. Put the new people in there. No problem. No problem. So what's the next question? I mean, we could do 1,000, or we could do 1,000,000. That's no problem, right? But okay, so obviously the next question is, an infinite bus rolls up and it has an infinite number of people. And so can you get those people into the hotel? All right, and I'm going to leave it there for a minute and talk about something else. So, all right, the style of math at Michigan is, of course, to go back and forth between doing problems and talking, and so that's what I'm going to do. So, all right, this is the part of the talk where I give you some inspirational quotes. So, let me go back. Oh, where to go? Okay, so, oh shoot, what did I do with it? Okay, so, if you want to build a ship, don't drum up people to collect wood, and don't assign them tasks and work, but rather teach them to long for the endless immensity of the sea. So my mom is an artist. That's my mom. She's here. And my dad was a lawyer, but my dad always wanted to be an engineer, like his father, who had helped build the Panama Canal when he was a young man. My dad had a big workshop where he worked with wood and metal, and what I absorbed from both my parents many things, of course, but one thing I absorbed was that the idea that it's more meaningful to make something than just to own something. And I've always carried that with me. On my 5th birthday, my dad told me that my present was down in the workshop, and I ran downstairs. I was looking for toys, and I couldn't find them. And he pointed to some tools and some wood, and he said, "That's your present. I'm going to teach you to use the tools and make stuff." And I can tell you, as a 5-year-old, I was less than thrilled. But I did learn to use those tools, and I used them to make many things. Here's one of them. Here. My dad gave me. I've replaced the blade since then, but this handle is still vintage 1970s plastic. And it reminds me of, I don't know, it means adding order to the universe. And it means my dad, too. So. All right. Next quote. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. I've learned this over and over and over again, especially the part about people forget what you said. I think every teacher can understand that. So I learned empathy from my mom, and as a teacher, I find always that my sympathies are always with the students who are struggling. There's more than one way to be a good teacher, and some students remember a teacher who demanded a great deal of them and so expanded their confidence. Others remember a teacher who made them feel excited about what they were learning, but in either case, teachers neglect the feelings of students at our peril. Any teaching strategy fails unless the students feels empowered and engaged. So when I was in high school, my family took a trip to Japan to my sister Karen's wedding. That's Karen right there. And we did a lot of stuff. And one thing we did was go to a world exhibition called Expo 85 in the city of Tsukuba. And there was a lot of pavilions there. It was from lots of countries and companies. And there was a United Nations pavilion, and I went there, and there was a guy selling little squares of plastic. And the deal was, you bought 2 little squares of plastic and with your name on it, and one of them he gave you back in a keychain, glued to a keychain, and the other one was put up on a big wall, which had little squares from lots of people. And so, if you did that, you got to have something, and you also got to be part of something bigger. And I bought one for one of my favorite teachers, Miss Mask, who was a person with a great deal of compassion for every student she met. Now, I don't know how old Miss Mask was when I knew her, but I do know that she had taught my sisters Alyssa and Emily in approximately 1962. And today, in 2019, she is my friend on Facebook. And there she is. That's Miss Mask. And so she always, and every time she interacts with me, she says, "I still have my keychain." And she tells me how much it means to her that I got her that, and that she was up on that wall. Well, I didn't know if she really meant it. I was afraid to ask, but 2 weeks ago I asked her, "Do you really still have the keychain?" And she sent me this picture, and there it is. She really does still have the keychain. I have searched for a picture of that wall, and haven't been able to find it. I even got my ex-roommate, my former roommate Paul, who's in Japan, to look on the Japanese web, but he couldn't find it. It may be somewhere, or it may have been taken down. Regardless, this meant something to me and to Miss Mask. It connected us, and it made us feel part of something bigger. And so that's what I wanted to say. So, all right. If a man does not keep pace with his companions, perhaps it is because he hears a different drummer. And not all who wander are lost. So I came to Ann Arbor in 1990, And I lived with my fellow math grad students, Steve and Paul, over in a house on Kingsley Street near Carytown. It went okay for about a year, except that I had trouble going to class. And so we developed this pattern where I would sleep through class, and Steve would go to class. Steve had been in the Army, and he had some discipline. And so, not so me. And then so Steve would go to class, and then he would come home when I was waking up, and then I would go through Steve's notes and copy them over, and then we would talk through them until we both understood them, and then we would all do the homework together. And years later, Steve said to me, together we made a pretty good graduate student. But it didn't work out for me the first time. Steve left after 2 years, and then I stuck around for another year, but that was it. I learned to teach, and that was the best thing. Under the tutelage of Pat Schur. Pat's here somewhere. Where's Pat? There's Pat. Pat was in charge of the calculus program back then, and she helped me learn how to teach. And so, but I didn't make much progress otherwise in the program, so I left after 3 years. And then I went and I got a job as a computer programmer here in town, and I did that for a while until I sort of got the urge to learn some stuff, and I found that the Discovery Channel could only provide so much. And so one day I showed up in a classroom. It was room 268 of the Denizen Building, which is now Weiser Hall, and I went to a physics class. I sat in on a physics class, and I asked the professor, is it okay if I sit in on your class? That was Professor Keith Riles. And he said, sure. And I said, I'm not actually a student, I'm just a guy off the street. But he said, sure, and that was okay. And that was great. My last school experience hadn't been so great, but that one was really empowering. And I had a great time. I did all the homework. I worked with the undergraduates, and then I did it again the next semester, and then I decided I should pay for it, so I enrolled as a special undergraduate, and I took a bunch of classes. I worked my way through the physics classes, and then there came a time when I couldn't find a physics class to take, so I took a math class, and then I remembered I really liked math, and then I asked if I could get back in the math curriculum, math PhD program, and Pat remembered me, and Al Taylor remembered me, and they helped me get back in, and then Divakar Viswanath became my advisor, and 5 years after that, I finally had a PhD, and so 17 years after I started. So I don't necessarily recommend that path. I will say that I come by that path honestly, because my mom, after taking care of children for most of her life, went back to school at age 50 and got her master's degree, and then had a full professional life after that as a pioneer in a new field of art therapy at the time. So I had that as a role model. You can give my mom a hand. So my point is, the straight-ahead path, the normal beat of the drum, does not work for everyone. I talk to a lot of students these days who feel that their education seems like a series of hoops to jump through. I think it seems that way to advisors sometimes too. And I'm just always delighted when they realize that it's much more than that, and they find other things to do. So, all right, one more quote. So look what we can do. So if you know Aaron Sorkin, you probably know him as the creator of the West Wing TV show. Before he made the West Wing, he made a show called Sports Night, which was about a kind of ESPN-type program. And there's an episode where he contrives to have one of his heroes, who's a sportscaster, go to his office and come upon a homeless man who's taken shelter there. And it's a tense moment. There's a knife involved. But they get past the moment, and they agree to share the sandwich that they were both there for. And they sit down, and as they're sharing a sandwich, the sportscaster turns on a monitor, which is showing a live video feed of some mountain climbers reaching the top of Mount Everest. And at that moment, the sportscaster turns to the homeless man, and he gestures to the monitor, and he says, "Look what we can do." And I think there's at least three things in that statement that I believe very strongly. The first one is that our shared humanity is much more powerful than anything that divides us. And the second is that humans are great, and we can do awesome things. And the third one is that when humans do awesome things, it belongs to everybody, and that we all have a piece of that. So I know I've read that when the crew of Apollo 11 came back from the moon 50 years ago, they went on a tour, a goodwill tour around the world. And everywhere they went, people would come up to them and say, "We did it." And they were right, because we, humans, did it. It would be very petty to try to bogart that glory, right? Right. All right. One more thing I want to say on the subject of great works. I want to mention one more teacher. My 5th and 6th grade English teacher, her name was Mrs. Phyllis Cates, and she was a scary lady. She was an elderly lady, and she was pretty scary to me. But I have a great deal of fondness for her because she taught us Shakespeare. In 5th grade, she taught us Shakespeare. And I don't think she could do that now because, frankly, a lot of Shakespeare's jokes are really not appropriate for 5th graders. But she explained them to us, and I learned some concepts that I hadn't even heard of from my friends, frankly. What I absorbed, the lesson I absorbed, is that witnessing a great work of humanity, even if it's a little above your head, can be a wonderful and empowering thing. And she made a lifelong Shakespeare lover out of me. And I try to do that with my students to show them something that I think is really awesome, even if it's a little above their head, so that they can see it. All right. Let's go back to the infinite bus. So, all right. New people, hasn't seen it before. Anybody have an idea? Well, will our previous strategy work? No, it does not generalize, because if you start to tell people to just move down, they're just going to keep moving forever because there's an infinite number of people. And so if you do that, you haven't really given those people a room. So we need a new idea. We somehow have to free up an infinite number of rooms.
You just skip one.
What's that?
Ask people to skip one every time. So you move the people from 2 to 3, and then the next person skip one, and the next person. So you free up a little one space at a time.
Okay, so Velma, where do you want to send the person in room 1?
To the room 2.
And where do you want to send the person in room 2?
Goes to room 3.
To room 3?
No, the first. Oh, yeah. So the room 1 stays, and then person in room 2 goes to room 3, and person in room 3 goes to room 5.
Okay.
Move them. Just make one space every time.
So Velma says, send all the current hotel patrons to the odd-numbered rooms, and that frees up all the even-numbered rooms, right? Yeah. All right. My slide does it just the opposite, but that's the same idea. Send everybody to the way I have it. Everybody doubles their room number, right? So the person in room 1 goes to room 2. Person in room 2 goes to room 4. 3 goes to 6. Now all the guests are in the even-numbered rooms, and the odd-numbered rooms are free, and therefore we can put the bus passengers into the odd-numbered rooms, and therefore everybody gets a room, and no two people get the same room, and therefore this is a one-to-one correspondence between people and rooms. Even though we have double the number of people, right? So you could sort of think of it like that. Infinity plus infinity equals infinity. Yeah, it's getting more dubious, I know. As we go along. But all right. All right. Next question. What do you have, a trickle-decker infinite bus? Okay. In this case, from now on, we'll just imagine the hotel's empty. we're just going to, a way to specify our assignment of rooms is just to write the hotel rooms into the bus. So, anybody have a suggestion how I can do the triple-decker bus? Yeah, somebody different from Vilma. All right, anybody who hasn't seen? The problem is most of you have seen this before. All right, need somebody who hasn't seen it before. No, everybody hasn't seen it before, Vilma. So, all right. Well, all right, somebody who's seen it before, what should I do? Who's got an idea? Yes, Esty. Okay. All right. I'm going to go up instead of down, but the same thing. So that's the problem with having slides. So yeah, just put 1, 2, 3 in the first column, and then 4, 5, 6 in the second column, and then 7, 8, 9, and then so forth. And so you never run out of rooms before you get to everybody, and so everybody gets a room. No two people get the same run. So this is a one-to-one correspondence between people and rooms, and you might think of it like that. 3 times infinity equals infinity. All right, what if we had a 1,000-decker bus? Does this strategy generalize? Sure, no problem, right? We just do the first column, then we do the second column, so forth. So what's the next question? An infinite-decker bus, clearly. So, all right, I'll leave it there for you to think about it for a minute. All right, this is the part of the lecture where I brag about my students. So, I have some pictures to show. I'm aware that watching somebody else's slideshow can be interminable, so I promise to go fast. I spent 17 years pursuing a PhD and 5 years writing a thesis, and I'm proud of that accomplishment, but it's not the thing I'm proudest of. And so, here are some things that I'm proud of. So, let me do this. Oops, that's the wrong one. I thought that was right. No? Oh, wait, I remember. There we go. All right, I'm proud of that. And that. Oh. All right, now I'm afraid it's going to all be blurry. I'm going to wait a second. All right, let's try it. Ooh. All right, and that, and that, and that. That's Seth right back there. Where's Seth? Seth's in front. There's Seth right there. And that, I know Luis is here, right? Luis is here. There's Luis. He's in that picture. And that one, and that, and that, and that, and that, and that. And that, and that, and that, and that, and that, and that, and that. There we go. All right. All right. And this is the wall in my office. And at the end of this, every year, I make a frame using my woodworking skills. I make a frame, and I put a picture on the wall of the class, and then I write to the students and I say, your class now takes its place on the wall with all DHSP students passed. It reminds me a little of the wall, Miss Mask. I put Miss Mask's name up on. All right. I'm also proud of this, and 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 this. That was painted on top of the rock so the aliens could see it. And that, and that, and that, and that, and that, and that, and I have to show you that, and and that. So many years ago, I think it was 12 years ago, I had a kid in summer camp who was not particularly engaged by what we were doing. He was just not into it. until a week in when I announced that we were going to go paint the rock. And then suddenly I saw him just perk all the way up. And then while we were discussing details, I heard him say to one of his classmates, "My dad painted the rock in 1977, and I get to paint it now." He was so excited. And then as we were walking over on Washtenaw, he said to me, "So how many days in 30 years?" I said, "About 10,000. He said, "So 10,000 layers down is the layer my dad painted." So he sent a selfie to his dad from in front of the rock. All right. So people have sent me many pictures in their DHSP T-shirts from around the world, from 5 continents, in fact. I'm not going to show you all of them, but I can't help showing you a few of them. So here's a few. So there's the Great Wall of China. There is the Forbidden City, Ethiopia, San Diego, making pizza. Note the pizza. Note the pizza. Bucharest, Athens, Jurassic Park, Uganda, Interlaken, Indianapolis, Mexico, Chicago. That was a coming out picture. Buenos Aires, Niagara Falls, Detroit, Turnip Rock. All right. So, all right. And then the thing that I am proudest of is the community that we've built in DHSP. And so because we do all our work in groups, and we have a small class, we get to know each other really well. We've also built a lot of connections across classes. We do that by having a dinner in the fall where everybody meets people in upper classes. We also have alumni panels, and we have freshmen interviewing upperclassmen. Those things all came about because people at the end of the year said to me, "I really want to be involved in DHSP next year, and how can we do it?" And I said, "Well, I should leverage that resource." And so the thing I'm proudest of is the community that we've built over the last 12 years. And so I want to show a few pictures of us supporting each other, friendships we've made, and people supporting each other. So here we go. That was in Nicaragua, right? Nicaragua? Where's Erica? Yes, that's right. All right. And that, there, and there. That was at the bowl game, right? Okay. And there, there, there. Note the cake. That, and that, and that. And those, there was one year when we had 5 students, and they were all named Lauren. There they are. There's the 5 Laurens. And that was the day they all dressed up like me. And they're sitting next to each other right back there, Kevin and Janine. That was them presenting at a conference of some research we did over the summer. And they're sitting, well, no, Jordan's not here, but Gretchen's back there. There we go. There. Note the math on the wall there, by the way. I'm especially proud of that one. Is Rami here? There's Rami, the man. Matt. Note the duck. Note the duck. That, and that. There we go. All right. There we go. All right. All right. I think that's the end. Yes. Okay. All right. Those are all real people to me. And thank you for indulging me and showing them to you. All right. Let's see where we're at. Infinite decker bus. So, who has an idea? Yes, okay. So, first of all, does our previous strategy generalize? No, because if we try and do what we did before, we'll just use up all our rooms on the first column, right? And then that's it. We won't get to everybody. So we can't do that. We've got to do something else. But, let's do that lower left corner. Let's put him in room 1. And then the thing is we have to sort of count off everybody but never count to infinity before we get to the end. So here's an idea. Count diagonally. So send that diagonal to rooms 2 and 3, and then that to 4 and 5 and 6, and then 7, 8, 9, and 10, and so forth. And you can see that each slice we take off is finite, and therefore we won't run out of rooms before we run out of slices. And so eventually, if we keep that up, we'll get to everybody. Everybody gets a room. No two people get the same room. Therefore, this is a one-to-one correspondence between people and rooms. So you might think of it like this. Yep. All right. I have 3 more buses for you. 2 of them are for the math and computer science majors, and then 1 for everybody. And these, you guys haven't seen these before. So, all right. The subset bus has a seat for every finite subset of 0, 1, 2, 3. And the sequence bus has a seat for every finite sequence of 0, 1, 2, 3. All right? Especially for the math majors and the computer science majors. I'll be calling on you in a little while. See if you've got that. All right. And then here's one for everybody. This is the C bus. The C bus is much simpler than the buses we've been doing. It has a seat for every real number between 0 and 1. I forgot to do the 3D bus. So what about the 3-dimensional bus? Can you do that? Sure, right? No problem, right? Imagine a cube. You just sort of slice off the cube in corners like that. That works. Or you can slice. By doing the infinite decker bus, we have a way to collapse 2 dimensions down to 1. So you can just take those 3 dimensions, just collapse 2 of them down to 1, and now you have 2. And now you collapse it again, and now you have 1. And if you look at it that way, then the whole thing generalizes, and you can do a 4-dimensional bus, or a 5-dimensional bus, or an n-dimensional bus for any n. No problem. So by comparison, the C bus is much simpler. It's just a seat for every real number between 0 and 1. Of course, you have seats for things like 1/5 and 1/2, but also for some irrational numbers like pi over 10 and square root of 2 over 2 and e over 3 and so forth. All right. So, last week, Kyle told me that part of my responsibility as winner of the Golden Apple was to pick the charities that the extra money should go to. It was suggested to me that maybe I should just tell him that we should just have some extra shrimp at the reception. But what I did was I picked one national environmental group, Earth Justice, which my sister Kate, who's an environmental lawyer, recommended, and then 2 local charities. So one is the LSA Emergency Scholarship Fund, and I have seen the LSA Scholarship Fund make a huge difference to people. The Emergency Scholarship Fund make a huge difference to people. In fact, at least one of them is in this room today, who needed money, and LSNA was able to come through and allow people to stay here to do it. And so I think the LSA Scholarship Fund is a wonderful thing. And the reason for Washtenaw, Bird Society of Washtenaw County is that, oops, that's the wrong one, sorry, over here, and is this guy. And so one day I was walking past the LSNA building, and I saw this goldfinch on the ground, and he was just kind of bopping around. He was clearly not with it, and so I looked up on my brand new smartphone. It was 2012, the old days, and I found the number for Washtenaw the Bird Society of Washtenaw County, and I called them up, and they said, yeah, bring him over. And I said, well, bring him over. How do I bring him over? He said, just pick him up. So I picked him up in my sweatshirt, and it turned out their office was right in a house over on Mary Street, and I took him over there, and the whole house is filled with birds that they're rescuing, a lot of baby birds. And they took him, and then a week later, they called me up, and they said he's ready to go. And so I went, and I picked him up in a paper bag, and I took him back to the LSNA building, because that's what they say, take him back where he was, and let him go. And they said, don't point him at the wall. Point him away from the wall. So I did. And anyway, the whole experience was, from start to end, was very wonderful. And I'm delighted that there are people out there who look out for those who can't look out for themselves, and not for any, not because it's going to make anybody any money anytime in the future or anything like that. So, all right. So, this is the part of the lecture where I talk about death. So it seems necessary for a last lecture that I should talk about death. So, I think I know why people throughout history have been certain that the end of the world is coming soon. They've all been wrong so far, by the way. I think I know why they think that, and it's because the alternative is much more frightening. Because the alternative is that we will all die separately, and within a generation or two, most of us will be forgotten. Billions and billions of years will then pass without us or even a memory of us. We're not at the beginning or at the end. We're just a blip in the middle. It's kind of hard to take. So people have found various ways to deal with this problem. The most common way is to have children, and then you live on through your children. A lot of other people decide that they just won't care about the future, and they'll live in the present. They say, let those people in the future worry about themselves, and I'll worry about myself. We'll burn the oil. We'll just think locally in time and space. Another way out is to do something great, or start something that will grow, like prove a theorem, or create a timeless piece of art, or explore a new place, like Douglas Houghton did. Douglas Houghton, my program is named for Douglas Houghton, and he was the first science professor at the University of Michigan, and many things in Michigan are named for him. Or you could do something awful and be remembered as infamous. And the truth is, I think that for a lot of people, for some people anyway, that's preferable to being forgotten. Or you can make a lot of money and you could donate to a university and names a building after you. We thank Mr. Rackham for that. Mr. Rackham, by the way, I learned Mr. Rackham was Henry Ford's lawyer. And in 1903, he invested $5,000 with Henry Ford, and 16 years later, he sold his shares for $12.5 million. So, and to his credit, he donated a lot of stuff to the University of Michigan. So the only thing you have to be careful of is that if somebody comes along with more money, then they might rename the building after somebody else. This happened to Mr. Dennison. Another way out is you could believe in an afterlife where instead of dying you move on to something else. Or you could believe in reincarnation, meaning this game here will end, but we'll get to play again later. Or you could join a project that's bigger than yourself and plan to live on through that. Imagine being part of building the Great Pyramid, or sending men to the moon, or working with Katherine Johnson to send John Glenn into space. You'd give up your ownership over the project, but in return you have a hand in creating something that will still be talked about thousands of years from now. What would that be worth? Or we can believe that we're part of a master plan that's too large for us to understand. We play our part, and although the significance may escape us, we believe that we're significant in some way. Or we can imagine that our actions move out away from us in ripples that affect other people, who affect other people, who affect other people, and so forth. And long after we're forgotten, our actions are still reverberating around the universe. I'm rather fond of this idea myself. It's an argument for bringing out the best in people, because that's your legacy, what you bring out in other people. It does beg the question, though, whether our lives are only meaningful in as much as we affect other people. What about people who can't do that? What about children who die young, or people without the means to do anything but survive? What if you're a hermit? What if you're a cat? Cats I have known. What if you're a bird? So don't our lives have meaning, regardless of anyone else or anyone else's plans? As a sometimes hermit, I'd like to think so. So I want to offer you a more radical idea, too. So if we look at our lives locally, it looks like a movie that just starts blurry and then ends blurry and then just stops, just fades to black. But what a mathematical perspective can do is allow you to step out of that and then look down on it like that. So that's you. Time goes to the right. That's your timeline. Think of it as sort of getting in a hot air balloon and going up in the air and looking down on a city that you've never seen except from being inside it. We've stepped outside of the timeline. Of course, there's lots of us here today, and so there we all are, overlapping, sharing this one moment in time together. But then, of course, there's lots of people that came before us, and then there's lots of people who will come after us. This is the wall of the cosmos. Everything that is, everyone that was, and everyone that will be. The English verb tenses here just get in the way. This perspective doesn't solve the problem of how to deal with death. Each of us has to find our own way. But it can say this to each of you. You are not alone in the cosmos, and death does not erase you from the cosmos. No one can take this wall down and misplace it. And no matter how many layers of people or paint are on top of you, you're still there. Our lives are finite, but they are permanent. We are. All right, let's finish this thing. So, thank you guys. All right. So, first of all, subset bus. Does anybody have an answer for the subset bus? Computer science majors, you get first crack. Anybody? Any computer science majors? I don't know. All right, math majors, you can steal. Math majors, anybody? Anybody? Math faculty? Anybody? No? It's a one-word answer. One word for two?
The subset that starts for each one.
Say it again?
The subset that starts with 0. Every subset that starts with 1.
Every subset that starts with 0. Every subset that starts with 1. The problem is you got to make sure no two people get the same room. So you can't send all the subsets that start with 0 to the same place. So, anybody? All right, it's one-word answer. The word is binary. What was that? No? The word is binary. So think of the numbers in the subset as positions of ones in the binary representation of a number, and so you send it to 1 plus 2 to the b 1 plus 2 to the b 2 plus 2 to the b n and so forth. The 1 is just so that the empty set will have somewhere to go. So 2, 3, 5 goes to 1 plus 2 squared plus 2 cubed plus 2 to the fifth, which is 45, etc. All right, that's unique. That's a one-to-one mapping. All right, the sequence bus. Anybody? 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 Math faculty? No? 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 All right, two-word answer. Begins with P. No? That's only one word. 2 words? No? The word is, what was that? Yes, prime, not numbers, but prime factorization, yes. So think of the numbers in this sequence as the exponents in the prime factorization of a number. And so the number the primes, P1, P2, P3, and then send the sequence to those primes to the powers in the sequence. So 5, 1, 2 goes to 2 to the fifth times 3 to the 1 times 5 to the 2, etc. All right, that's a one-to-one correspondence. All right, which brings us to the C-bus. So, all right, now I've got to run something. Hold on a second. Let me, I was afraid to run the browser before now because I was afraid it would crash. So, hold on. Gotta wait while it comes up. And there we go. Just thinking. All right. All right. So, suppose somebody claims that they have a one-to-one correspondence between the C-bus and the hotel. And they express it as a list of people. So they just list who's in each room. So for instance, in room 1 is 0.5, and room 2 is 0.3141592.6, which is pi over 10. In room 3 is 0.707, and so forth. And they claim that this is a one-to-one correspondence. I claim that someone did not get a room, and I am going to construct that person. Give me a number. Everybody can shout at once. Give me a number that's a digit that's not 5. 7. Give me a digit that's not 1. Give me a digit that's not 7. Give me a digit that's not 0. Oops, sorry, 3. Sorry, I said 3. Give me a digit that's not 4. 5, not 5. 6, not 9, not 8. 7. Actually, I don't want to do 9. I'm going to do 6. Oops, that's wrong. I can't do 6. I'll do 2. All right. And so forth. Keep doing that. You keep going down the diagonal of the list, and you make the number at the bottom differ from the diagonal in each entry. I claim that that person did not get a room. How do I know? Because she's not the person in room 1, because she differs from the person in room 1 in the first digit. She's not the person in room 2, because she differs from the person in room 2 in the second digit. She is not the person in room 3, because they differ in the third digit. She is not the person in room n, because they differ in the nth digit, so she is not in any of the rooms. She did not get a room, which means this list is not a one-to-one correspondence between the bus and the hotel. But of course, I could do this to any list, right? And therefore, every list is not a one-to-one correspondence. And therefore, there can be no one-to-one correspondence between the C-bus and the hotel. And therefore, those two sets, while both infinite, are not the same size. And therefore, infinity is not one thing, it's at least two things. This right here is one of the greatest accomplishments of humankind, bar none. Not because you can make cell phones out of it. You can't do that with Shakespeare either. Because of what it means. Because throughout history, humans have been told that infinity is a place that they cannot go. That it's a barrier that we cannot cross. It's like Oops, wrong one. It's like a cloud surrounding us that we can't get through. We are finite beings, and therefore we cannot grasp the infinite. Well, no. We are finite beings. But yes, we can grasp the infinite, because we found a door in that cloud. And then through the door is a whole new world. And the world has structure and variation and stories. And we can go there. And we just did. Look what we can do. Thank you, guys.
Mr. Conger. On behalf of the Golden Apple Committee and the community at the University of Michigan, I want to hereby present you with the 2019 Golden Apple Award. Thank you again very much.
Thank all of you. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you guys very much.